Welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave. Let's see who did their homework last week on here. Number 60 was last week's video on Patreon. This one's 61. So this is definitely a part two. If you didn't see that one, go ahead and go back and watch that one. This will all make more sense, and it'll save us from having to kind of restate a lot of things in there and take time up in this on this one. Hi, welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave. Let's see who did their homework last week on here. Number 60 was last week's video. Okay, this is 61. Definitely a part two from 60. So I'll put that in the title. Using the same backing track. If you did see that one, you remember the matrix of notes where we had the triads kind of in a grid. Let me go ahead and put that up. Today I added the sevenths to it. And you can kind of follow the same methodology with that. Once you watch the previous video, if you haven't already, then that should make more sense. Now, I'm going to jump right in here. The backing track, I guess we'll go over the chords. If you're stubborn and you didn't see that one and you're still watching this one, you're like, no, I'm just going to go for it. That's cool. That's fine. But let's at least get the chords to the backing track. So we'll do that real quick. Then I'm going to jump right in here with some more guardrails for improvising in this 1-4-5 piece in the key of C major. So here's our backing track and our chords. We'll wait for it to come back around. Has a little turnaround. Starts on C. Okay. Now, I'm tempted to just leave that on and jump right in here, but I'm gonna pause it for a second and let me look at this diagram so that I'm talking to you all accurately about what it looks like. So the three chords that are being used are C, G, and F. C is the 1 chord in C major. G is the 5 and F is the 4, as you can count out as you would do in any kind of key study, right? Now, this is a diatonic progression, meaning that all the triads and 7th chords that are listed there are derived from the same bucket of 7 notes that make up its parent major scale, the C major scale. And there's no sharps or flats in there, right? So that is the pure C major, okay? If you cancel out any notes that are redundant in that little grid right there, you'll end up with 7. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, okay? So that, and you can kind of look at that from the chicken and the egg. Well, just getting the triads from that, or you like unpacking the triads and seeing that that's the scale. You do your own. That's a question that the answer creates more questions for you that are good for you to be, investigating, and then ask some questions in the comments if you need to. So here's what we know. We're in C major. Our progression is 1, 5, 4, then it goes 1, 5. That's not written there because those are the only 3 chords that are involved. Okay. So, what I did in that intro, we're going to go right into this kind of what the guardrails are here today. All right. And by guardrails, I mean things that are not just rules, but like ideas, a program that you can use to sort of jumpstart the process of creating your own melodies and rhythmic motifs and improvising, right? People tell me all the time, I've memorized all these triads, and I can just move them around. I can do all my caged exercises and so forth. That's great. Very important, really. But very often I hear along with that, but then it's just, when I watch others play sometimes, or if I watch a Dao Twang video, it's just like, what is, it just sounds, I know you're just using those same elements, but it just sounds so more flowing or something or whatever, right? I'm not trying to characterize my own. I'm not giving myself accolades here. I'm literally sharing with you what people tell me, right? And so that's when I set about my work. Like, okay, I understand the question. What we need to be talking about is like how we connect that information in musical ways to really make satisfying moves on the instrument, right? Create melody and interesting lines. So here's one out of many possible guardrails that you could use. And this is what I did in that demo. I would take a chord tone, a triad tone, probably not the seventh. I probably always started on a root third or fifth, right? Put that seventh up there just because it's the next tier of the same process of all of this. But let's stick with the stuff in yellow there. Let's say for the C, I just go right to the root. Okay? And remember, it's the C major scale that accompanies this, and that is the same material that these triads are made out of, right? It's the same stuff. So I'm going to go down or up 1 degree of that scale, okay? So it is a prerequisite here that you are playing the major scale. Right? However you do that, let your ear wander. You'll know. Your ear will know. Don't just rely on memorized, visual patterns and things. It's fine to use that, but, don't just stay in one. Don't just use the one memorized pattern of it that you're most comfortable with, right? Move around. Right? And you do that in your own way. So on that C, I can either go down 1 scale tone. The note's B. That's not one of the, well, it is the 7th, actually. It's not one of the triad tones of C, the C major triad. Interesting enough, it does happen to be the 7th up there. Or it could go up 1 scale tone from the C to the D, right? That's not a triad tone either. It's a neighboring note. But see how I'm pivoting from that C, right? I'm just pivoting this way or that way. And I'm using repetition and different versions. There's an endless number of variations. And you really want to let yourself play with that, right? It doesn't have to be fast, Take the time to really be comfortable. If you're anxious when you're doing it, you're not done. Don't move on yet. Stay with it until you're just your fingers just start to play it. Sounds like that well, all right, little lick right there. It doesn't take many notes to make a killer lick, right? So that's for the C. Now, for the next chord, I'm going to choose one of those 2 notes that I was pivoting to. When I move that to the progression moves to the G, I'm going to play either that B right below the C or that D right above it. And check it out. Both of those are triad tones of that G chord, right? So, and what do you think is going to happen now? I'm going to do the same business. I'm going to go back down one scale tone out of the C major scale. From that D was the fifth of the G. Right? Or I'm going to go up, either down to the C or up to the E. Then I'm going to go take that on up to the F root. When I get to the F chord, same business. Hear that? Okay. Now, let's put this backing track on and see if this gets us anywhere. Okay, now notice how for the couple of turnaround chords there at the end, I did the same thing, except this time, let me pull my chart back up here, is I didn't go to the root C when it went to that second C in the progression. Since I was up in this neighborhood, I took the one that was close by and I used the E, the third, in that C triad, but I did the same thing. I dipped down to the D, the scale tone below it in C major, or up to the F, the next scale tone ascending from E. Then I went right back down to the next, the most convenient one for the G at the very last chord in the progression and did the same thing, but I worked off the fifth. Okay, now see if you can, I'm going to play that, slow it down a little bit and play it with no chords, but see if you can kind of, take note of some of the triad tones that I'm starting on and see if you can hear the song even though we're just playing single notes and kind of anticipate the changes of each one of the chords. Now, I didn't do the same routine off of everyone, right? Just because I'm already kind of letting go a little bit. It's not completely formulaic. The guidelines are the what we discussed earlier, one down or one up in scale tones out of that C major scale from any of the triad tones for any of the three chords. But the fun part of it, the game is like which ones are convenient, which ones are nearby, right? And that part is going to also bring out your individual sense of the note that you want to hear. This is very important. This is the core thing, meaningful thing about all of this. If I just show you a system to completely follow, you're going to miss out on that. These ideas, you still have to make choices about what the next note is that you want to hear. And the more you do this, that's going to shape your expression of your own language. Okay, I'm not going to get into a big philosophical thing about it, but it's like there's nothing more important than that. It cannot be done by copying, right? It has to, you have to get in that supported space where you're being scaffolded up to making the choice of that melody for yourself. And it'll happen. I hope this helps. I really do. Let me know how it goes. Leave me some comments. I'll put a copy of the backing track, and I'll put a couple of slides up from these little triad matrix diagrams that we used on this and the last lesson. All right. Appreciate you. Have fun. Talk to you next week.